During the Goryeo Dynasty, a greatly respected, virtuous, and enlightened monk called a national preceptor served as the king's advisor. Memoirs of Goryeo, Historic Monuments in Kaesong, Part 1 of 2. Continue watching to find out more.
Vegan, we all thank you.
To greet someone in Caucasia, one may say "Здравствуйте," which means hello in Russian, one of the Republic's official languages. I'm Sergey. The kind-hearted Caucasian people pray alongside you for a vegan, peaceful world every day. In today's episode, we will travel to the ancient city of Kaesong in the northern part of Korea for part 1 of a 2-part series entitled Memoirs of Goryeo, Historic Monuments in Kaesong. The country's name Korea originates from Goryeo, a Korean dynasty which unified the Korean Peninsula in 918 and ruled until 1392. The capital of Goryeo was Kaesong, which was also the hometown of Taejo Wang Geon, the founder of the Goryeo Dynasty. Located 58 kilometers or 36 miles from Seoul, Kaesong became the capital and center of Korean culture for 500 years and remained famous for trading and commerce for 1,000 years. During the Goryeo Dynasty, Buddhism was worshipped as the state religion. This period is known as the Golden Age of Korean Buddhism. Shortly after becoming king and founding Goryeo, Taejo Wang Geon established 10 temples in Kaesong. According to records, Kaesong was a metropolis with a population of 100,000 households and over 300 temples, and 1/3 of Goryeo's total population were monks. Many nobles and princes became monks. In addition, a greatly respected, virtuous, and enlightened monk called a national preceptor served as the king's advisor. The citizens of Kaesong and the royal family often held events in which the monks were served meals. It is said that the number of monks attending royal ceremonies was usually around 10,000. Under the influence of benevolent Buddhism, the kings of Goryeo issued several bans on the slaughter of cattle people, and those who violated the bans were strictly admonished with punishment for murder. Shu Jing, an envoy from the Song dynasty who visited Goryeo in 1123, wrote that Korean people are very merciful in politics, respect Buddha, and avoid killing. According to his book, Xuan Hu Feng Shu Gao Li Tu Qing, Goryeo people did not like meat. Their plant-based dishes were highly developed and kept evolving. Moreover, when ancestral rites were held, they did not place offerings of fish people or animal people, but instead served cookies with fried flour. The largest national events celebrated by the gentle Korean people were the Lantern Festival on the 15th of January and the Bagwanhui on the 15th of November. The Lantern Festival is a day to light a lamp, symbolizing the wisdom of the Buddha, and continues to be celebrated to this day. free tea and sweets were provided, and the king and all the people honored the Buddha's merits with music and dance, and prayed for peace in their nation. While the Lantern Festival was held all over the country, Bagwanhui was the nation's largest event held in Kaesong. Bagwanhui translates as Festival of the Eight Vows. It began as an event where Buddhists went to temples to observe the 8 Buddhist precepts for a day and a night, and then expanded into a festival to give thanks to the Buddha and the gods of harvest. The remaining Buddhist temples in Kaesong are Anhwasa Temple, Kwanumsa Temple, Daehungsa Temple, and Yangtongsa Temple. In particular, Kwanumsa Temple, which is adjacent to Pakyong Waterfall, has been a popular attraction for many visitors since ancient times. Daehungsengsong Fortress, which contains Pakyong Waterfall and the Kwanumsa and Daehungsa temples, also houses cultural relics and designated national treasures. Situated at the foot of Okwansan Mountain, the original Yangtongsa Temple was destroyed by a fire in the 16th century, but was rebuilt in 2003 through a joint restoration venture between the northern and southern parts of Korea, making it an especially meaningful site.
Turn vegan? Wow, you've grown up so fast.
The culture of Goryeo shows a deep and inseparable relationship with Buddhism. Compassionate viewers, let's pause to contemplate on our Buddha nature within. We'll return soon and continue to explore Goryeo's shining cultural heritage. Welcome back to Memoirs of Goryeo, Historic Monuments in Kaesong, Part 1 of 2. The Tripitaka Koreana is respected as one of Goryeo's most brilliant cultural and Buddhist heritage. This majestic work consists of engraved Buddhist scriptures on printable wood blocks. The first production started in 1011 and took 77 years until 1087, during which over 6,000 Buddhist scriptures were made into printable wood blocks. In the second production, wood blocks were created, collecting 4,700 scriptures over a period of 10 years. The third production lasted 16 years. Only a small portion of the first and second woodblock scriptures have survived. Fortunately, the third woodblock manuscripts are well preserved. The historical value of the Tripitaka Koreana is described by UNESCO as one of the most important and most complete corpus of Buddhist doctrinal texts in the world. In the Tripitaka Koreana, there are altogether 81,352 wood blocks carved with 6,569 Buddhist scriptures. The Tripitaka Koreana is famous for having a consistent font and almost no typos. It is said that the reason the typefaces are so consistent is that the engravers trained for almost a year to refine all their typefaces and ensure the writing was uniform in shape. About 50,000 people each year participated in the writing, and the number of characters engraved on the sutra was 52,729,000 characters. Ancient writings recall that the engravers bowed to the Buddha 3 times each time they engraved a character. The Tripitaka Koreana is a legacy to humankind that was achieved through the amazing faith, devotion, and deep prayer of the Goryeo people. The efforts of the Goryeo people to record Buddhist scriptures on wood blocks made it possible for them to later be printed with metal type. Produced in 1372 and published in 1377, Jikji, or Anthology of Great Buddhist Priests' Zen Teachings, is the world's oldest extant metal movable type book. This book predates Johannes Gutenberg's printed metal type Bible by 78 years. Jikji was written by the monk Haegwon and was inscribed on the Memory of the World Register by UNESCO with World Heritage status in 2001. It is an anthology of Buddhist scriptures about discovering the Buddha within oneself. The Goryeo people held exceptional aesthetic standards and created beautiful works of art that are still admired to this day. Goryeo Buddhist paintings are widely seen as some of the most exquisite religious artworks in the world. Their graceful forms, brilliant primary colors, and luxurious gold pigment portray a world of perfection. The Goryeo Celadon is famous for its unique decorative technique called sangam or inlay. This delicate technique involves carving out the desired motifs from dry clay, then filling in the carved spaces with black or white slip before a translucent glaze is applied and fired. The result is a brilliant presentation of clean lines, vivid design, and a subtle yet alluring color combination of white, black, and green that makes the best of Goryeo inlaid celadon a joy to behold. The key surviving historical record of the Goryeo Dynasty is the History of Goryeo, or Goryeosa. It was composed during the reign of His Majesty King Sejong the Great, who was a vegetarian. During the Goryeo Dynasty, Kaesong was an international trading city, trading with the Arabian, Persian, Indian, Thai, Olak Seas, also known as Vietnamese, and the Chinese Song dynasties. Exports were primarily Korean ginseng, paper, matsutake mushrooms, and ceramics, which were exchanged for pepper, spices, and books. Arabian fleets of more than 100 men visited and traded on a large scale, and thousands settled in Kaesong, forming large communities. There are records that the Arabian people invited the king of Goryeo to a mosque and a special banquet. Even with the change of dynasties, Kaesong maintained its position as a center of domestic and foreign commerce. The Merchants Association, called Kaesong Merchants, developed a financial system, creating its own double-entry bookkeeping system, and were the first to introduce currency. They dominated international trade and domestic distribution networks. Kaesong's long and historical reputation in the commercial and financial sector brought the Kaesong industrial complex to fruition in 2003. The construction of the Kaesong industrial complex was started jointly by the southern and northern parts of Korea. Companies in the south moved in and employed the residents of Kaesong until the end of 2016 in fields such as textiles, clothing, and machinery. It is such a pleasure to learn of the kind, gentle, and understanding culture of the Goryeo people and how they humanely lived in such harmony with each other and the people from the animal kingdom. We look forward to finding out more in the next part of this series. Welcome to part 2 of a two-part series entitled Memoirs of Goryeo, Historic Monuments in Kaesong. Let's now visit cultural and historical sites in Kaesong, which is in the northern part of Korea. Kaesong prospered for 500 years as the capital of Goryeo, the unified Korean Peninsula of 918, named after the founding Goryeo Dynasty. The city sits in a basin enclosed by 4 mountains, including Sungaksan in the north. 2 rivers, the Kaesong River and the Imjin River, surround Kaesong and serve as a transportation hub. Kaesong is considered one of the best places on the Korean Peninsula in terms of feng shui, as the harmony of mountains, rivers, and fields produces an abundance of grains. In 2013, the historic monuments and sites in Kaesong were listed as a United Nations educational, scientific, and cultural organization, or UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Historic monuments and sites in Kaesong Democratic People's Republic of Korea adopted.
The World Heritage Site encompasses the palace, the tomb complex, defensive walls, gates, astronomical and meteorological observatory, 2 schools, including one dedicated to educating national officials, and the commemorative steles. These important cultural monuments are a testament to the Goryeo Dynasty, which ruled Korea from 918 to 1392, and to the transition from Buddhism to Neo-Confucianism in East Asia. UNESCO announced that the 12 Kaesong sites embodied the political, cultural, philosophical, and spiritual values of a crucial era in the region's history. Goryeo made Buddhism the state religion and cultivated spirituality, but politically adopted Confucianism as the principle of governing the country. In this way, Buddhism and Confucianism developed together, and this integration is evident in Kaesong's historic monuments.
개성에는 고려의 왕터인 만월대를 비롯한 개성성, 고려 성균관, 공민왕을 비롯한 많은 유적들이 지금 보존되어 오고 있습니다. 이러한 귀중한 문화 유적들은 우리 민족의 자랑이며 또 우리 민족의 유구한 역사를 보여주는 귀중한 이런 문화유산으로 되고 있습니다. 또한 이러한 유적들은 천년이 넘는 오랜 기간에도 원상대로 보존되어 있는 걸로 해서 오늘 세계적으로 자랑할 만한 이런 유적으로 널리 알려지고 있습니다.
Now let's take a look at each of the 12 historic monuments and sites in Kaesong that make up the UNESCO World Heritage listing. First is Kaesong Namdaemun, which was constructed between 1391 and 1393 and is located in the heart of downtown Kaesong. Kaesong Namdaemun is a famous landmark, and the structure features a stone base topped by a wooden pavilion. The signboard was written by Han Sok-ban, a famous local calligrapher and writer. The city was originally surrounded by the Kaesong city walls with a circumference of about 23 kilometers or 14 miles. The quadruple walled Kaesong defense system consisted of the outer wall, inner wall, palace wall, and the Palochum wall. Namdaemun is the only remaining southern gate among the 7 gates in the inner wall. Aside from its role as a gateway controlling the movements of people in and out of Kaesong, it also served as a clock. This is because the gate Namdaemun houses the 14-ton Yeonbuk bell, the bell of the Yeongbuksa temple, which was cast in 1346. The bell was sounded at different hours to ring out the time.
Vegan. Imagine living in a world where the dictionary has no word bully, no word murder, no unkind words whatsoever.
Let's pause to appreciate the craftsmanship evident in the historic monuments of Kaesong. We'll return after some constructive messages and resume our tour here on Supreme Master Television. Welcome back to Memoirs of Goryeo, Historic Monuments in Kaesong, Part 2 of 2. Next, we explore the site of the Goryeo Palace, Manwolde. Manwolde was built at the birthplace of Taejo Wang Geon, the first king of Goryeo. Goryeo Palace is located at the southern foot of Sungaksan Mountain. This palace was destroyed by fire in the 14th century, and only the castle walls, some of the stairs, and the palace grounds remain.
평면적은 궁성만 해도 약 39만 평방미터에 달합니다. 여기에 전시된 사진 자료들이 2차 발굴 때 찍은 사진들을 전시한 것입니다. 여기에서 보시는 이 사진들을 보게 되면 이 발굴한 후 그 발굴 상태를 찍은 사진들인데,
만월대의 특징은 앞부분에 축대를 높이 쌓고 그 위에 경사면을 따라 건물들을 계단식으로 배치함으로써 여러 개의 건물들이 하나의 건축구를 이루면서도 건물들의 모습이 층층으로 나타나 웅장하게 돋보이도록 한 것입니다.
The southern and northern parts of Korea jointly examined the remains of Manwolde 8 times over a period of 14 years from 2007 to 2018. They discovered about 17,900 artifacts, including 1 metal movable type and various kinds of Goryeo celadon tiles and ceramics. Hwaejeonjeon Hall, the central building of Manwolde, was a 2-story building measuring 43 meters or 141 feet wide and 23 meters or 75 feet long. The scale of the palace was grand, requiring a total of 5 huge gates to pass through the palace to Hwaejeonjeon. The Goryeo Palace second-floor tiles were raised with jade-colored Goryeo celadon and were decorated with beautifully carved stones, copper flowers, red pillars, and splendid colors. The surveyed contents of Manwolde can be viewed online through the digital archives of the South-North Joint Excavation. Situated west of Manwulde is the Kaesong Tamsumde Observatory. It served as an astronomy observatory in the Goryeo era. Built in the early 10th century, it is regarded as one of the oldest astronomical observatories in the world. The book Kaesong Z describes the structure.
첨성대는 만월대 서쪽에 있다. 돌 기둥으로 된 방형의 망루 모양인데 너비가 7척이고 높이는 8척이다. 옛적에 그 위에 천상을 관측하는 기계가 설치되어 있었는데 지금은 담쟁이가 무성하고 고색창창하다.
It was originally estimated to have 3 or more stories, but now 5 stone pillars and 1 stone plate remain. Goryeo Sungkun-gwan Confucian Academy was a highly regarded educational institution established during the Goryeo and Joseon dynasties. There they trained government officials in Confucian literacy. In 958, Goryeo introduced a system for selecting officials whereby candidates had to pass an examination. The examination for bureaucrats had 3 fields: a department of literature, a department of general affairs for recruiting technicians, and a department of monks. The introduction of the examination meant that not only the nobles, but also all talented civilians could take the national exam and qualify to become bureaucrats or high-ranking priests. Goryeo Sungkun-gwan Confucian Academy consists of the Taesong Hall, Myeonggun Hall, and 20 other buildings, including one of the largest wooden buildings to still exist in the Democratic People's Republic of Korea.
고려 성균관에서는 한 과목의 학습이 끝난 다음에는 반드시 시험을 치곤 했는데 시험을 쳐서 통과된 학생만이 다음 과목 학습회로 넘어갈 수 있었고 이 시기에는 유교 경전과 함께 국가 관례학, 수학, 법학을 비롯한 전문 지식들도 가르쳤습니다.
Currently, Goryeo Sungkun-gwan is used as the Goryeo Museum. The Sunjuk Bridge, Sungyong Academy, and Pucheong monuments are sites historically related to Jungmung-ju, a respected Confucian scholar of Goryeo. Sunjuk Bridge and Pucheong monuments are special landmarks commemorating Jungmung-ju's loyalty to the Goryeo Dynasty. And Sungyong Sowan is a private Confucian academy on the site of the former residence of Jungmung-ju. The remaining historical relics are the ancient tombs. The largest tomb is the mausoleum of King Wangkong, the tomb of the first king and his queen. Nearby is the mausoleum of King Gunmin, the tomb of King Gunmin and his queen. Next is the Myeonglum cluster, which includes the tomb of King Cheongmuk and 2 royal tombs of unknown kings. Lastly, we have the 7 tombs cluster, where 7 royal tombs of unknown nobles are gathered. It was a joy learning the historical heritage of Kaesong, the capital of Goryeo. May the glory of the Golden Age return to this historic city as we follow the wise teachings of the enlightened masters. And may peace prevail on the Korean Peninsula and throughout the world.
Veganism is not about giving anything up or losing anything. It is about gaining the peace within yourself that comes from embracing nonviolence and refusing to participate in the exploitation of the vulnerable. Dr. Gary L. Francioni, vegan.
Cherished viewers, thank you for your gracious presence today. We pray that all nations will unite in harmony and respect in Buddha's blessings.
Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule. and suprememastertv.com/WAU.